I started in HR over 30 years ago. In fact, I started in industrial relations in the bad old days of British industrial relations, I have to say. And I think one of the first lessons I learned was that you get the industrial relations you deserve. If you don't manage people in the round and think about people not just as costs, but actually think about them as an asset that you want to get the best return on, then you tend to get the sort of reaction that we were having in the 60s and 70s. And I sort of set out to try and come up with a way that encouraged managers to manage people better than they do. What most businesses would regard as HR is still a very administrative approach to managing people. We make sure they get paid on time, we make sure their health and welfare is looked after, we make sure of all sorts of things. But I think human capital looks much more on the positive side of the balance sheet and says, whilst we're looking after them, what are we getting in return? And that they're not mutually exclusive. Human capital says you only get the best out of people if they're totally motivated to give of their best. It's the investment analysts and the accountants who've asked this question and come to the conclusion that any organisation can buy in technology, they can buy facilities, they can buy buildings. What they can't do, they can hire people, but what they can't do is get their hearts and minds unless they put some effort into it. And it's that hearts and minds motivation that really makes the difference. You know, and we're talking about innovation and creativity, getting every last ounce of value and idea out of your workforce. It means you have to treat them and respect them as people. And you will get the hard value from that. If you're asking me how receptive would any normal average employee be to human capital, I have to say a lot of them would, like any manager, would regard it with a certain amount of skepticism. They've heard all these newfangled, ideas and jargon before. But actually, if you say to somebody, how would you like to be regarded by your employer? I think most people, the first thing they would say is, I'd like to be valued. I'd like to be recognised. I'd like to know that my contribution is appreciated. If you ask any employee what motivates them, they are top of the list. More so than pay, more so than pay. People come to work for a whole range of reasons. And number one is, they want to get something more out of work than just work. It's a social engagement, it's a purpose in life, it's something they contribute to society. It means a lot. And I think what they would really like is their employer to recognise that. There's no better way to do that than to treat people as human beings, but as valuable capital and an asset that never depreciates.